for the hero, the only true conclusion is death.
So, I want to preface this review by saying that I played the game on the Xbox One, and I just prefer the Xbox One because even though it doesn't look as good on the Xbox One comparatively to the PS4, at least it works. And, you know, I just like the online features. All my friends have Xbox One, so I went with the Xbox One version. I want to preface this review by saying that I love Batman, the comics and the movies, but played very little of the first two games in Rocksteady's epic trilogy. Yeah, they are pretending that Origins never happened, and I don't really blame them, because Origins is not that... You know what, it's not a bad game, but it doesn't feel like it's part of... you know, the whole thing that Rocksteady built. Even though I don't think it's critical to play the other games, I feel there were probably a lot of story points and nuances I was missing. They kind of throw you into the game. It took me a little while through trial and error to get going, but when I did, Arkham Knight turns into a fast-paced, well-scripted and executed adventure, action-adventure game with just the right RPG elements to make you want to keep moving forward. You know, when they get it right, I think that Rocksteady has a real tour de force here. Tour de force. I don't know if I'm saying that right. The game does an awesome job of making you feel like Batman, feel like a total badass, while also reminding you just how vulnerable Batman is in a head-on battle. As I progressed through the game and upgraded Batman's skills and gadgets, I approached every encounter with a group of thugs as almost a chess game. I scoped out the area first for any environmental takedowns, who was carrying a gun or a stun baton, how many bigger guys there were, who I was going to attack first. I planned out my attacks and relished the flow of these actions unfolding. There is a reason the combat system has been copied again and again. Rockstar has really polished what they have developed over the course of two other games. I love how simplistic the system is, while also having this huge, deep side to it. If you choose to go that route, however. I didn't pay much attention to the combat system as I was distracted by another equally interesting system that I feel is almost like a whole other half of this game. And I'm speaking about the Batmobile. A lot of people have mixed reactions to the Batmobile. A lot of people either really, really love it or really, really hate it. The Batmobile, I feel, is a huge part of this game, and I never expected to like the combat for the Batmobile segments as much as I do. A lot of people have told me that they felt the Batmobile segments seem to be too many, and too tough. I think these people need to take a long, hard look at their lives and realize that maybe they just didn't bother upgrading the Batmobile. You know, if you neglect the Batmobile, it will neglect you. And that's why these segments were just maybe a slog for these people. I think that really, what really makes the Batmobile work is just the fact that you can strafe, like in a first-person shooter, which gives you perfect controls for taking on multiple tanks. Also, as you progress through the upgrades, you get awesome secondary weapons, like multiple missiles, the ability to hack tanks, and even an EMP blast. The enemy tanks also take their time firing at you, and their sight lines are painted so that you can see the trajectory of the shots. Once the enemy tanks have committed to a shot, they can't really move or take another shot until that first one pops, giving you time to get out of the way. So that almost becomes like a chess game in itself as well. Sounds simple, right? It is at first until you're attacked by like 20 tanks, and they're all different sizes, different types, including aerial drones. Then you start to think about strategy the same way that you do when you're in combat with Batman. In this sense, the Batmobile almost becomes like another character in the game, one that grows with you through upgrades throughout the game, and its many twists and turns. Speaking of story, I was worried when people told me that Paul Dini helped with the first two games with the writing, but wouldn't be returning for Arkham Knight. If you're any kind of a Batman fan, you know Paul Dini had a big hand in the Amazing Batman the Animated Series from the 90s. But Dini gave the game his approval, and even during the development of the game, asked all the fans to trust Rocksteady. Well, he placed his trust in the right people, because from what I have played from the first two games, I would say the writing and story are almost on the same level. I would say Arkham Knight's story is less dense, yes, but it still felt strong. And honestly, I feel like maybe they were holding back stuff for DLC. So I feel like maybe the thinness of the story has more to do with business strategy or business decisions than anything else. Hey, what can I say? It's the times that we live in. I can't just sit here and complain about every single game and every single piece of DLC that comes out there. The DLC for Arkham Knight is about $40. It's a little pricey if you ask me, but I did see some of the DLC coming out. It looks really exciting, looks like really good stuff, and at the end of the day, DLC, I feel like it might be a little bit of extra for the fans that want to put in that extra money to get a little something out of it. If you just want the base experience of Batman, the base game, I think is fine. The story, the side missions, I think that there's a hook there, and I feel like there's enough there for you to really, really appreciate this game. I've always loved how unapologetic the Arkham games are when they embrace the comics and the original source material. The movies took it to a super realistic, gritty place, and I can appreciate that too. But I love how there's just a hint of camp to it all. The games have also established their own style, have influenced DC characters outside the games. Harley's costume in Suicide Squad is an update that was introduced, I think, by the games. Harley, the character, was created from Batman the Animated Series, but her costume has kind of grown over the course of these games, and I feel like the mainstream has really accepted the current costume that she wears in the Arkham games. The graphics have been refined over the course of 3 games. I remember how in the first game Batman and Gordon had almost the same body type, and you can see the limitations of the Unreal Engine. Things have come a long way. The models look very realistic this time around, and the city itself is gorgeously modeled, with just the right touch of destructibility. It also helps that although the game wasn't written by Dini, both Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill reprised their iconic roles as Batman and Joker, respectively. The rain-slick streets, with a mix of cobblestones and asphalt, depicting different parts of Gotham, it looks amazing. It looks gorgeous. The atmosphere, coupled with just how fast Batman could get around, made it a pleasure to traverse the city. Although I loved, going around the Batmobile, I really love grappling and that sense of kinetic movement, just fast. I just love getting around the city as Batman. You're a total badass, and they really show that in the movement. The Riddler is just as big of a dick in this game as he ever was, and this absolutely begs for a Riddler-centric game with more complex puzzles and equally cerebral storyline. I don't remember how many trophies there were to pick up in the first 2 games, but there are over 240 trophies in this game. It's absolutely crazy. And many of those are attached to intricate puzzles. I'm slowly working my way through the puzzles now and trying to get 100% of the game done, as it really has its hooks in me. I think the puzzles just they're just hard enough that I didn't look at any facts to figure them out, and I felt a real sense of accomplishment when I did figure out the puzzles on my own. You can really feel the polish and love that went into this game. It is a worthy final entry in the series, and I hope Rocksteady continues to make games in the DC universe. The only thing I would complain about is a lack of multiplayer or some kind of co-op component. You can see the potential there in the team-up combos. I would recommend people play at least Arkham City before they play Knight, which I am now going to go back and play on my PC. And you know what? Arkham City holds up, graphics-wise, story-wise. Arkham City still has a lot to offer, and especially if you want to appreciate the nuances in Arkham Knight, I would say play Arkham City first. Arkham Knight is a masterpiece, and I recommend it as a must-buy in everyone's Xbox One or PS4 library. If you're looking for an awesome brawler with puzzles, I give this game 9 tiny orphan Bruce Waynes out of 10 on the Popular Gamers scoring scale.
This is how it happened. This is how the Batman died.